Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Welcome everyone. It's wonderful to see you and to launch on another meeting of exploration together. Thank you everyone for being here today. It's lovely to see so many people. And on the first screen I noticed that Denise and Sophie are sitting together in Switzerland, which is wonderful to see. So thank you everyone. I want to share something I'm exploring at the moment with you, and I've enjoyed the journey of exploration. It still feels like that, so I'm looking forward to kind of looking at it with you later on. But first of all, I'd like to share something from the Zen teacher Catherine Thanas on pauses. She says, "We seem to need pauses around things. Before I begin my talk, I settle myself on my cushion, just as you have settled yourselves, and then we chant. Chanting is a ritual pause. It is an activity complete in itself. If I began to speak immediately after entering, you might not be ready to listen, and I might not be ready to speak." So one of my themes today is pauses and pausing. And I think it's easy to forget that we're still so new to meeting in this way on Zoom. And I wonder sometimes if we don't realize what it actually takes to settle ourselves in this fast medium, and at the same time to wonder at the connection that is possible through it. For example, as soon as I arrive to be with you today, I hear recording in progress. And then you arrive quite quickly on the screen. And in the in-person meetings that Catherine Thanas is describing, people would come through the door and you would hear the rustle of their clothes and the moving seats around as they settle. And something different would happen in your body in relation to it. So to start with today, let's have a ritual pause. I'm going to invite you to gaze with kind, warm appreciation at one person in our gallery. If you don't wish to be gazed at, please turn your camera off, of course. Perhaps you could choose someone from another continent who you are unlikely to meet ever in person, and yet they are there in this gallery of beings from across the Northern Hemisphere. Imagine perhaps how you would paint them. So just choose one person for a moment to appreciate. So just holding that experience in mind, if you wish to, and if it remains in mind, I'm curious today about what we become aware of when we see, hear, feel, touch, and taste, when we're open to receive. And I'm wondering, what have you allowed into presence during this midwinter pause? And I'm also curious about what we miss, what we don't apprehend, and what we don't attend to. So I have three perspectives to share on this. The first is by Quinn Franz, the teacher at Thousand Harbour Zen in Nova Scotia. He says the Dharma is teaching in everything we see, in everything we do, in everything we encounter. And the 8th century teacher Taowu, when talking to his student Lungtan, said, "For true perception, you must see right on the spot. As soon as you begin to ponder and reflect, you miss it." And thirdly, and this is about perspective, Trudy and I went to see the wonderful David Hockney immersive experience in Manchester a few days ago. You sit or stand in this very large room, as you would if you were looking around in a spacious park. And David Hockney talks about his love of painting, his love of life really, as his work is displayed over all the surfaces of the room. Regarding perspective, he says, the Chinese never used what we call one point of perspective, which is an Italian invention, of course. The Chinese idea of the landscape was you walking through it. Our eyes move. If our eyes move, there's not just one perspective, there's thousands of perspectives. You're seeing, in a way, yourself move in the picture. You are in it, in the sense you are not outside of it. You're seeing, in a way, yourself move in the picture. You are in it, in the sense you are not outside of it. During the hour-long experience, a little girl, perhaps 18 months old, wandered freely and blithely around the large room, pausing, looking at the changing images on the walls and the floor, and at people's faces. She was in it, not outside of it, and was part of our experience, of the experience. Trudy, Mary and I went to a beautiful concert before Christmas at Lancaster Priory. A small choir of British singers, some of whom we knew, were singing songs from Georgia. It would be easy and habitual to just think of the concert as the main event, and not to notice anything extraneous to it. However, one of the moments that has stayed with me, that touched me, is how they tuned up before what was for them a particularly difficult song, how they took time and space in the silence of the church to find their way to find attunement. It's beautiful to experience people finding attunement. It would be so easy to miss such presence. I'm reminded that Mizumi Roshi often said to his students, "See?" I love hearing about what people love. I love hearing you talk about what you really love. And I can sit for hours just listening to someone talk about something they love, even if I know very little about the subject they're talking about. Just before Christmas, I was driving the short journey home from my daughter Eleanor's home, perhaps a 20-minute drive, and I turned on the radio with no particular expectation, just something to accompany me home. I joined an interview between Jules Holland and the British musician James Taylor. And I remember being gradually awakened, drawn into this amazing interview, which punctuated the playing of music. And as with the choir previously, it would be so easy to miss it. James Taylor started by talking about Beethoven, his favourite composer. How Beethoven was not particularly interested in what people thought about his music, how he was in a kind of dialogue with God. He appreciated how symmetrical, how beautiful Beethoven's musical notes look on the page. In particular, he emphasized how Beethoven often stays in a similar place, exploring again and again a series of notes. He knew, Taylor said, when to move and when to stay. When to move and when to stay. This is the practice of prolongation, the act or state of making something longer or extending it. And I thought perhaps this is the invitation in our Zen practice, to explore our own particular swirl of notes in the whole soundscape of the universe, to become intimate with this self before, or perhaps at the same time, the self drops away. Koan Franz again, this time on teachers. Most teachers are not trying to unpack some encyclopedic knowledge of Buddhism. They're not trying to offer a curriculum in Zen. They're just trying to say a couple of things. They're trying to describe something that they've tasted. And the depths of the teaching over time is not that they keep adding to it. It's not that it keeps getting bigger and bigger in scale, but simply they just keep finding new ways to describe the taste. This is a great relief to me as a teacher and a student, and perhaps it points again to something central to practice. Our work is to stay with this self we have been gifted with, these few notes that we play endlessly, to go ever deeper, to flow with this beauty, terror, and wonder. And this can be really difficult, to actually avow, these are the notes I play. These are the notes that have been gifted to me in this life. You will see behind me part of a painting by Heather McAlpine, an artist exploring the sea and coast in Cornwall. Trudy has a Heather McAlpine painting behind her too. Heather appears to explore again and again her intimate conversation with the land and the sea, finding new colour combinations and textures, engaging in this delightful prolongation. In the wonderful Canadian series Three Pines, the kind and generous detective Armand says, "Grief is love with no place to go." Grief is love with no place to go. I'm aware of the grief that permeates our world at this time, including the grief in and for everything that's happened in Los Angeles. Returning to the interview with James Taylor, after playing a Beethoven sonata, James Taylor talks about J.S. Bach, how he experienced a great deal of loss in his life, and he related the loss to what he's saying in this. He says, "Angela Hewitt, she's great on Bach. The way she approaches the piano, even the way she sits at the piano before she touches the instrument, and then the way she touches the instrument evokes something in people which allows them to grieve, which gets through all your armour and deep into your unconscious." I'll say that again so you can imagine it. Angela Hewitt, she's great on Bach. The way she approaches the piano, even the way she sits at the piano before she touches the instrument, and then the way she touches the instrument evokes something in people which allows them to grieve, which gets through all your armour and deep into your unconscious. What a statement. What exquisite perception. We go to listen to Bach, and the way the pianist walks up to the piano, pauses and touches the piano, breaks our hearts open. We think the performance is the main event, then the whole piece is much more rich than we ever imagined. So finally, a question. If Zen is a ceremony of gratitude for this precious life, what is evoked and allowed for those offering the ceremony and those witnessing it? So finally, to return to Catherine Thanas, she says, "True intimacy occurs when we directly experience reality for ourselves. Transmission or true understanding does not come from someone else, nor can we transmit to someone. We transmit to ourselves. Each one must find intimacy directly, not through our thinking mind, but from immediate direct experience prior to the mind's mediation. During a recent sesshin, I was offering a stick of incense at the altar. While doing so, the ash from the burning incense met the ash in the dish intimately. There was no resistance, nothing to push against. The experience left no trace. In our usual morning service, the attendant offers me the incense, and we bow together. That moment of the stick being passed from hand to hand is most intimate. We can notice such intimate moments. Each morning the meeting happens for the first time. We notice when attention wanders. This moment is especially profound in the stillness of the Zendo. Thank you very much. And I would love to explore all of this with you. So if you have any questions or things you'd like to explore, please do join me.
I really tuned in to what you said about pause. There's something really delicious. When I meet someone, I love the pause at the beginning. The sort of implicit welcome.
What does it open you to?
It opens me to presence. It opens me to actually what I'm sensing in that moment. And it opens me, I think, to receiving the other person more fully before it gets all wordy.
Yeah.
Too many words.
Yeah. It's beautiful what you're describing.
Yeah. That word. Oh, yeah. Delicious. It's a taste, isn't it? Just thought that. Yeah. It's something delicious, the taste of that. That moment of not needing to speak, needing to know. And I think I noticed it particularly today, the opposite of that. When I meet someone and it's instantly, how are you? And there's something jars in me. It feels very different to the very spacious.
Yeah.
Welcome. Learned that in Hakomi, Josh. Feels very Hakomi. That very gentle opening.
And I wonder, it's like we were kind of trained in that, and in society it can be really hard to remember, to come into presence and connection through just being with.
Yeah, just being with. Yeah, without having to do anything.
Yeah. It's like, I guess for my talk, it's kind of reminds me. It's like I want to be reminded that that's, as you say, delicious. It's intimate.
Yeah. Taking that pause before to just look at somebody with sort of with kind eyes, with loving presence.
Yeah.
Delicious.
The kind, soft eyes.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. I can feel that from you as you're sitting there, like
Mm-hmm.
if you're in that space.
Mm. Yeah.
You can just, you could just continue to gaze.
We could actually.
Mm.
Be quite happy to
Mm.
do that.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for this little taste of
Mm.
meeting spaciously.
Mm. Thank you, and I kind of also want to thank all the people I kind of quoted, and
Yeah.
you know, that interview. They're
Mm.
little gifts, big gifts
Mhm.
that open
Yeah.
up something.
Mm-hmm.
We're so
Yes.
so blessed.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Oh, so this is indeed lovely. And I'm not a musician, nor am I especially musical. Um, but I didn't need to be to appreciate your descriptions. And I know in music it's written there's a rest. A rest, I think, is a pause. And so there's sometimes a pause in the music. And what came to me as I was listening to you and to Jan, I experience this gesture, this bow, as a pause.
Mm.
There's always just that moment
Mm.
as our hands are moving through space. We cease talking. We cease thinking in a way, or I do.
Mm.
My hands, my body, they're just pausing and making this gesture of connecting with one another.
Mm.
And also connecting with everyone else. We're in attunement in a way,
Mm.
attuned to each other as we bow. So, as it's unfolding, I'm taking it out of just pausing into words. It's like art.
Yeah.
I kind of see everything, I kind of experience life as performing art to some extent, or aesthetically, it can be aesthetically beautiful. And what I'm noticing is, the bows, the bows that we share. I don't experience them elsewhere in life.
Mm.
When we greet each other ordinarily, or when we say goodbye, sometimes I have that longing that
Mm.
more than a handshake or more than a wave, it's like, outside of our practice, our shared practice, I have that longing to
Mm.
experience this acknowledgement of deep connection.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was so hard for me when I first took up this practice to even bring my hands together. I think because there was so much ridicule, in my family of origin about religion and prayer and whatnot, I had things to overcome, which is interesting.
Mm.
It's interesting how that hesitation has been transformed into something I feel so grateful for. I feel so grateful that I have the freedom to share this little pause with others. And, what I notice is as soon as I stop, there's going to be a pause.
So what I'm inspired by in your practice is in the world I go out into, what would be the expression of a bow that isn't a bow? As we approach people, as we go about our daily lives, where is the heart of bowing in the way we look at people, the way we pay for food, the way we... So, it feels like an expression of love somehow. So I'm curious.
I love that question.
Yeah.
I love it. And, really, for me, it is indeed a smile and taking time to fully connect with anyone that I'm having,
Yeah.
that I encounter. Yeah, that feels a lot like a bow.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that feels appropriate for the situation, but isn't a bow. But's informed by our practice. That's really helpful.
Mm.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you, Josh.
Thanks. Hi, Becky.
I really was, what Lisa was just saying, I realize how grateful I am to be in a community here in the assisted living where I live, where many people here bow as a way of saying, well, it means so many things. I see you, I respect you, I see the, well, we might say the Buddha in you. Other people have a different word there, but that they see the divine or the, something. And I just was realizing while she was talking, oh, that's something I'm really grateful to be able to do. The thing I had raised my hand because across this time where we've been having a session for Soji and Samu, that the whole thing about pausing, but also of moving slower through whatever we are doing without having it stressed by by achievement of what it is or completion of what it is. And as you were talking about some of the things, when we are able to get quiet in ourselves, that I feel time slowing down in a way that is quite wondrous. And a pause invites that, I think, is part of what happens. A pause invites us to see things differently and also to be slower. I don't know the right word for it, but fully present is part of what happens then that you're able to do. And when we are in that space, time goes slower in a way that makes every moment more full, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's not a complete pause, but it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautifully expressed, Becky. I love that. And I'm kind of curious about also sometimes, I have a process sometimes where I do get quite busy and want to get on with things. So pausing is a good practice for me. And sometimes, I'm aware we just have to get the meal cooked. So there's something about the awareness within pausing about how it informs what's appropriate in the moment. And I'm really curious about having worked in in kitchens with people. Sometimes we need to pause, and sometimes actually we need to get on with it. And I'm kind of really interested in that dynamic that is played out too. So,
Mhm, mhm. I I think that our aging offers us some practices and awarenesses that, I mean, all the ways that we slow down, our body slows us down, or makes it clear that we may or may not have some of the senses and movements, etc., available to us. That it's like, oh, I wish I'd learned this when I was able to move in a faster way. It's like, so anyway, I think that they are gifts to our expansion.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. This was wonderful. And was her name Alice Hewitt?
Angela Hewitt.
Angela. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's anything on, well, there probably is online.
There will be. I think there'll be recordings of her playing. Yeah, she's a well-known exponent of Bach.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Hi, Rosemary.
Hi, Josh. And thank you for this reminder. For me, pausing is scary. And I'm grateful for this practice because I've certainly cultivated, a way to be quiet and be still. So in this moment with you, I've just finished the head student time, and that was not a lot of pausing. That was, a lot of responsibility, which I enjoyed, and it's kind of my comfort zone. Difficult and new things, but the busyness and the activity. Now, it's, well, what now? And it's a little discombobulating. That would be how I'd put it. I did something that was helpful. I went on a silent retreat, which was a Quaker retreat for about 3 days over the holiday. And that was very nourishing, where I didn't have to say anything. And yet there were people around. And this reminds me of what you started with, was what is it like to come into a remote meeting? What does it take to settle? And I really appreciate that question. Being with this group of about 24 people, silent for these 3 days, and we did activities together, but used hands and writing on a little paper to communicate. But finding the settling and finding the connection without the in-person experience. I think it's important what you said. We take for granted that, we're here, we have a wonderful Sangha, and we do. But it may take a little bit more than we think about.
I appreciate your point on that. I have more of it like a question, what is the kind of impact on our beings to be in this kind of environment? So, for example, if you were in person, I would hear you get up from your seat, and I would hear you, your clothes rustling towards me as you sit down.
Or even breathing,
And your question is kind of also in the way you walk. You walk towards the seat, and it's kind of your being as a question. Not everybody's being is a question. So you have maybe in this medium less time to kind of settle, and you suddenly appear on my screen, and I'm kind of I'm kind of attuning to you in the way that I can, and it's really interesting to wonder about that process. And I really appreciate how when you come out of the responsibility, there's a kind of maybe the engine's kind of still running, and you stop your role, and your body, your being feels different, having gone through that. It takes some adjustment.
Yeah, and there's a temptation, with my personality, I guess my conditioning to, rev up again.
Yeah. So the going to the Quaker event was in a way counter to your conditioning. It's like, oh, I'm going to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. It was nourishing.
Yeah.
It was like hand holding while I go through this transition.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't alone, and I was with a lot of bodies, which
Yeah.
I'm not usually.
Yeah. 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 Good to to sort of come into land gradually. Transition. Wish you well in that transition to
Thank
what
you so much.
happens
Thank you.
next.
Nice.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, Josh. We haven't, this is my first time meeting you. So it's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
I am regularly puzzled and surprised when someone expresses appreciation for me. I'm surprised even when someone has clearly noticed me over a period of time. Someone will say, well, I really liked it when you said such and such, and that might have been months ago. Or I was really happy to see you here, or you said this something that really helped me. I've learned to take that in more with people who I have known for a while, people who I know fairly well. But when it comes from someone who I don't know well, it kind of throws me into a dither.
Yeah. What happened?
Sometimes it's almost, well, what's wrong with you that you would pay attention to me?
Yeah. So there's some real tenderness there about kind of receiving recognition and contact from people you don't know so well.
Yeah, I've learned to sort of make myself small and inconspicuous. Um,
So how's it feeling now? Because we haven't met before, and I've been aware of you for a long time. How does it feel right now?
I'm surprised. It's sort of it's clashing with even though I know I have done this myself, this making myself inconspicuous, it's still just it's surprising. You know, like I said, you and I have never spoken before, and so that just is very surprising that you've been aware of me. I feel like I'm just almost wallpaper a lot of the time.
I've seen you many times come up to meet Flint and other teachers, and I've always really appreciated what you bring. And right now you feel like full size, even though you may not experience that.
I think this scares me.
Hmm.
If I'm seen and known, that feels very vulnerable and almost like it puts a burden, a responsibility on me that I don't know I'm really not comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah.
It scares me.
So is there a kind of way in which you want to be seen and known, but it's not, there's a kind of, I also can't manage that.
Could you restate that? I'm not quite sure what you mean.
You know, you come up to meet, and so there's something about wanting to be known and seen and exploring this, and yet it's actually really hard too.
Yeah. In particular, I'm going through that right now with my kids, my daughter and my son, trying to heal the distance that's there in those relationships. Um, it's been there, well, really all of their lives, and it's gotten more distant, and that's really, well, I perceive it as all from my side.
Okay.
And so I've been.
Just right now, I'm going to, because obviously we have limited time, it's so precious.
Yes.
No, and it's precious being with you. Let's just focus on being together right now. Yeah, so I'm really appreciating being with you. It takes great courage to come up. I'm enjoying being with you.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Yeah, this is really nice. It feels like you're sitting beside me on a bench and we're just sharing some stuff. It's nice to be with you. Love to see you again. Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe just take that in as much as you can. Come back again to the
I
bench.
will.
Yeah, love to
I
see
will.
you. Yeah, thank you. Hello, bonjour.
Bonjour. So, in a way, I put on my hand before so many people were speaking. So I have the echo of everything that has been said.
Oh.
And I see the watch. We don't have a lot of time. So I just want to thank you for your talk and the pauses. It's a theme that is so dear to me and has been dear to me for many, many years. And just to recognize all the small moments we have in life where there is a little pause slipping in, and like a little, it can be a sigh or just something that catches the eye, or suddenly the sun beaming on beautiful wool. This experience I had in Lancaster with my wool. And this sense of a little bit, a moment of freedom. It's just, oh, I can turn my head here or there. It's just a break. So
Yeah,
a,
I'm
a lot going on.
not going on, and this is a lovely way to kind of complete the meeting, Denise, because it comes right down to, delighting in this world, um, and the beauty of this world. And, um, when we went to the David Hockney exhibition, he said something like, "It rains a lot in the UK." He said, "People don't like rain." He said, "If it rains, I just draw it. It's like it's just rained. I like going out and drawing it. It's beautiful." So there was something that you've drawn the threads together so beautifully. And is there a third creature with you there?
Yes.
Can I see the third creature? Oh,
Everybody.
what's she called?
That's Pepita.
Pepita.
Pepita, yeah.
Oh, great to see her. How old is she?
6 months. Yeah.
6 months. Oh. Oh. Well, there's a lovely delight to finish with, Pepita.
Mhm. And she's
So much.
really good at posing. When she goes around and then when there's something she doesn't understand, she stops and she sits
Ah,
until she gets it. And then she starts again. It's really funny to watch.
great teaching.
Yeah, then we all have poses like she does. Yeah, wonderful.
Thank you so much. So I think we're at the end of our time together. It's been so lovely to be with you. Let's finish with the 4 practice principles, please. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Caught in the self-centered dream, only suffering. Holding to self-centered thoughts, exactly the dream. Each moment, life as it is, the only teacher. Being just this moment, compassion's way. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jessica, for making this possible and for your beautiful self and beautiful chimes. And it's been great to be with you all. Thank you so much.